Alrighty, my friends, we have been covering the top 10 roadblocks to meaningful relationships, and we are on number 2. So if this is the first video you're watching of this series, go back and start at number 10 and come all the way through. And be sure to tell me in the comments which ones are landing for you. So I almost made this one the number 1 because it, in theory, sounds like the biggest issue in relationships, but I'm saving a different one for number 1, and this is number 2, but it is huge. And this is the roadblock that everybody will probably resonate with. It's being too busy. Busy is kind of a filler word there. Some of us aren't so busy. Some of us are actually just, there's a lot of other reasons. We have low energy, we just don't prioritize it right, but we often use busy as a filler for the fact that we're not making the time. We say we want meaningful, deep, close relationships, and yet if I looked at your calendar, would I agree that that's one of your priorities? If I looked at your calendar, would I say, wow, you really are prioritizing this. I'm so sorry it's not happening for you. Or would I look at your calendar and say, yeah, I can see why you're not feeling really close to people. I can see why you're not making the friends that you say you want to make. We aren't taking the time, my friends. And we can't just keep making windows of time. I have one friend who just told me, I just can't stand being fit into a little window by so-and-so, and she just is always giving me a window, or I always just have 5 minutes, or it has to be within this 15 minutes. It's really hard to feel close and to feel loved and to feel accepted and to share our stories with each other and to witness each other's lives and to process things, to do the things that relationship does in windows of time, in little tiny spurts. And those can add a little bit, but they can't leave us feeling the depth. That takes time. And so we're talking about frequency. Yes, frequency of little things is a part of time, but we also need spaciousness and bigger blocks of time. And unfortunately, we live in a world where this has not been modeled to us. If anything, we have had it taught to us that productivity and consumerism and work is the number one thing in life. And sometimes our finances have told us that too. But we've gotten so caught up on thinking that work is the norm and that being busy is the norm. And even when we're not working and making money, that doing chores and errands and like all these other things, we just get so caught up in thinking that relationships are like a nice to have. Something that if we just had all the time in the world, sure, maybe I would do it. We're never just going to have the time. We have to make the time. We have to carve the time. Far too many of us are getting to an age in life where we suddenly go, wow, I invested in all the wrong things. I have been so focused on XYZ and pouring everything into this company or into this product or into this thing and realize I have not invested in my relationships. Don't be that person. Don't be the person that ever took relationships off the radar. And if you are, then put them back on, reprioritize them, reclaim them, make the choices. What are you going to say no to so you can say yes to relationships? The research continues to scream with clarity. The happiest, healthiest people feel connected and loved. We keep seeing that over and over and over, and yet our calendars are not reflecting that we believe that truth. We keep thinking that maybe watching TV or being on social media or working or just doing any number of other things is what will actually lead to a happy, fulfilled life. Our whole goal is to feel caught up, right? No, our whole goal is to feel connected right where we are. One of the biggest roadblocks to the relationships you want is that you are not making the time. And you can say you don't have the time, but you do. And if you don't, then what are you going to do to make that time? We have to. This is what life is about. We have to find and create and foster and develop and savor and honor and protect time with people. This is a big one. The next one's even bigger, but this is a really big one because you're never going to feel close to people an hour here and an hour there. If you want close, meaningful depth, you're going to have to block off time. A whole day, a whole weekend, one day every week, one evening, a phone call regularly. It's going to take an investment. And the more we invest, the more it pays off. That's the good news. That's the good news, is it gets better and better the more time you put into a relationship. It gets more meaningful. It brings more happiness and more interest and more witnessing. It's so worth it. But we've got to clear this roadblock. And it starts with your calendar. Where can you block off more time for connection?